street epistemology. You were talking about how you were not the creator of it, but you certainly took it and ran with it.
He certainly popularized it.
I like to think so. Yeah, I've been going out with my camera and recording talks, putting them online, and that was probably the most visible example of SE at the time. These days, I'm not uploading as many videos as other people are, so there are more active practitioners of it. But street epistemology is not just uploading videos where you're stopping people on the street to explore their deeply held belief. You can use it anywhere, with anyone, at any time.
You're contrasting the recording of it for a YouTube presentation with just doing it in your daily life. And it doesn't always have to be just about religious deconversion or anything like that either, right?
Right. It could be any given position that somebody has. And like I remember I've used SE in the break room at work, with a few coworkers about giving, political views they have or, whatever their opinions on vaccines were. And I actually got somebody to change his mind about being hesitant about the Moderna vaccine because, I started, not challenging him, not telling him he was wrong, but just applying SE to him and asking him about, his belief. And he was like, oh, well, there are people who've got blood clots from it. And I was like, well, there are people who've got blood clots from smoking. And I see you smoking. And he was talking about how rare it is for somebody to get blood clots from smoking. And then I was like, so if you're telling me, I started asking him more questions and I was able to get him to go, okay, now that I think about it. And, actually getting into reading Socrates recently, it's an interesting approach to get somebody to point out the inconsistency in their position. Because it's one thing if you just tell them that they're wrong, but if you ask them a series of questions in which they're forced to give their answers and their answers are contradictory, you're able to point out the inconsistency in their view. And you don't even actually have to say anything to the effect of like, you're wrong.
That's exactly what we do in SE. Exactly. So that's cool that you were able to use it there. Yeah, definitely. You can use it way more than just, interrogating people's views on why they think God is real. I'd like to see many more examples where people are using it with everyday conversations like that online. That would be really neat because I think there's a stigma that you can only use this approach with God beliefs. And we're really trying to overcome that. But there are so many, and I keep uploading video examples where I'm talking to people about their God belief too. So I'm not really helping in that regard, but it's one of my favorite topics. And I think it's so damn effective on that specific claim. It's hard to yank me away from it. And I do try to talk about other topics too. But I guess I'll probably just leave that up to future generations.
It's interesting. You use the word stigma there, suggesting that talking about religion or having a discussion that may lead someone away from religion is a bad thing, or that it's viewed as a bad thing. Is that what you meant by that? Or is that just what you think the perception is?
Maybe a little bit of both. Like, I think that there's a stigma when people think of street epistemology. They may think you need to go out in the street and you're talking to strangers about why they think God is real. That's like 80% of the examples online, maybe, and that number's probably going down.
Well, it's easy to
that's the stigma that I'm trying to overcome.
Perspective, and I understand that like I was saying earlier,
it's a fair assessment.
I use it
because we have video examples out there of us doing that.
Yeah, you see the videos; they're doing it out on the street. You see the word street epistemology. And you think like, okay, so street epistemology is this thing where you set up a camera and you ask random people about their God belief. And that is how it appears on the surface. In many cases, it is in fact that. And that's one of the reasons people think that. But once you learn about what it is, it's simply a method for conversations.
Well, let's get to that.
Though. Well, it's a little maddening when people who are identifying as skeptics see 3 examples of SE and then come to a hard conclusion about what it is. Try to be a little bit more forgiving about what it is you're viewing and what you think it is than before you make up your mind.
Yeah, maybe they're using the word skeptic incorrectly as well. I mean, I'm sure Shane is using it right, but a lot of people call themselves skeptics, and you wonder if they know what it is.
Right. Well, I think it's within our nature as skeptics to question whether or not someone identifying as a skeptic is in fact one.
Right.
I'm always careful though, because I don't want to commit a no true skeptic fallacy where I look at an example of somebody, let's just say, failing to be a skeptic, because I've failed to be a skeptic myself. I can't say that there are times that I've been wrong about things, and it's not just that I was wrong. It's that I'm like, okay, wow, I kind of failed as a skeptic. I just got there for a really bad reason. Mm-hmm. And of course, my skepticism gets stronger with experiences like that. So, I could be grateful when I'm wrong, and I'm like, okay, well, now I have to think more in a similar situation like this. But I don't know. I'm always hesitant to say somebody isn't a skeptic because of a particular instance in which they failed to apply skepticism.
Right. I think it would be fair to say they failed to apply skepticism, just the way that you said it there.
Yeah.
Perhaps in just that one instance, maybe, because they heard somebody say that's what it's about. Then they went to watch a few videos and then confirmed that that's what it's about. Street epistemology, for example, and then that was good enough. And then they stopped there. And the next time somebody mentioned it, they kicked them to the curb because it didn't.
In my honest opinion, I think that legitimate skepticism comes from habituation. I think that if you realize skepticism is effective and you decide you're going to become a skeptic, start identifying as a skeptic, applying, skeptical methods, then I think that it's not like the next day, now you're good at being a skeptic and you're not going to be fooled easily or tricked easily, or you're not going to arrive at false beliefs easily. You're on the right path. But, it comes through habituation. So you have to make mistakes on your way. And every time you're wrong, every time I find out I'm wrong about something, I try to really analyze, like, okay, what are some things that I was wrong about? What are some things I could have realized earlier that would have led me to realize that I was wrong? What are some things I failed to think about? What are some flaws in my thinking that I made?
What were the warning signs, maybe?
Right, that I missed.
But Anthony, I want to ask you, do you have any formal education in philosophy or critical thinking? Because this seems like something someone would have to be able to do what you do as easily as you do it.
Oh, none, really. I mean, I worked in the service industry when I was in high school, working for like a fast food place, talking with the public. And then I worked for a chemical company and I designed databases. So like maybe I'm kind of thinking, I was actually wondering myself, like, why did I take so well to this approach?
Mm-hmm.
And that may be part of it. I also ran a small business where we were interacting with customers and selling. There was a sales component to it. So maybe you pay a little bit more attention to what people are saying and how they're saying it and that type of thing. And then probably countless hours of watching the Atheist Experience was incredibly helpful for me becoming comfortable with my non-belief and learning the arguments and that type of thing. And then I started finding podcasts like You Are Not So Smart with David McRaney, which is just fantastic. It talks about the things our brains do to protect ourselves from the harms that can come from belief revision. All the things our brains do to hold on to those beliefs because they serve that purpose, even though they may not be true. So it was just sort of a confluence of that over time. And then when I discovered this method and started using it, it was profoundly impacting my conversations and me as a person. I was becoming a lot more empathetic to the people that I was speaking with. So What is
it that made you want to do this? Was it just the experience that you had with it, realizing how effective it was at helping your own clarity of thought, or was it just this empathetic desire that you had to help other people? Why did you get into street epistemology?
The appeal to me was originally the main idea of the book, which was called How to Have there's a new book, which is called A Manual for Creating Atheists. Because I was an atheist arguing with theists and having knockdown, drag out arguments where I felt like crap afterwards. And I was hungry for a better approach that I didn't feel like crap afterwards, so that was appealing to me. And then I went out, and then the other part of that was like, I saw people uploading content in the atheist community. And I thought, I think I want to do that. I think I want to try to help normalize atheism. That was a big part of it. So it was like those things coming together and then realizing, wow, that was a good conversation. I uploaded it to YouTube. I got 50 views and I got 3 comments that explained like some things that I can try next time. And I just kept repeating it, just growing, getting better at it.
And so it sounds like a little bit of process of trial and error was involved with that.
Still is.
Yeah, it's a good point. So you just mentioned a while ago that you used to be religious. I believe you used to be Catholic. Is that right?
Did I mention that?
You didn't, but I've heard you say it in other videos, so I'm mentioning it for everybody.
Okay.
Shout outs to recovering Catholics.
Yeah. To answer your question, yeah, I was raised religious.
How
I was
devout were you?
Very little.
Okay.
Everyone around me was, and I was like, why are people believing this stuff? This is ridiculous. I'm like 8 years old, and I'm like, this is like made up, right? What are they doing? And then if you try to talk about it, you get kind of shut down. Like, don't say that. You shouldn't question. Just pray harder.
That was a big one for me. That was a big thing that did it. It wasn't just people not having answers to my questions. That's fine. It was my questions being frowned upon. That only made me more curious. Like, okay,
Yes.
now I'm wondering why I'm not supposed to ask questions.
What are they hiding?
That's suspicious.